Governor Hogan recently allowed a bill on unconscionable drug price increases to become law, but declined to sign it, citing reservations with the measure. So there are two stories here, starting with the new law and what parts gave the governor pause. Before we get to that discussion, though, let's look at the process story. Ken, have you ever heard of an unsigned bill becoming law?
So, a lot of states and even the U.S. Constitution allows a bill to become law without actually being signed. It's actually nothing new. With that said, it's very rarely used.
It is unique.
It's definitely unusual for it to happen. My personal thoughts on this are that Hogan probably realized that there were too many votes for the bill, that if he would veto it, that they would just override his veto anyways. So looking forward, because Hogan's going to be coming up for re-election here in 2018, he probably figured it'd be a better political stance to just let it become law, but not actually sign it.
And just so for my own understanding, it was the majority in the House and Senate.
Right.
Passed
it. They passed the bill. Isn't that a little, I don't know, is that a little passive aggressive?
I don't know. It's on one way it's smart politics, because they can't come back and say, well, Hogan vetoed this law, and and at the same time, if he would have any Republican challengers, they can't come and say, well, Hogan signed this law.
I find it interesting that he chose this, and honestly, I half kiddingly asked about the passive aggressive piece of it. I think it's politically a very good thing to do, because number one, as you said, it is unusual.
Right.
Number two, it sends a message without removing the bill or without getting rid of the bill, and it gives him some plausible deniability.
Right.
In terms of, from a political standpoint, plus to the Democrats, would pounce on him and say, "See,
exactly,
you vetoed it, and now we're going to have to, pull out all the stops." It took a news story that could have been 2 weeks and turned it into 2 minutes. I mean, you saw one story on this, and it was a process story. It was about the fact that a bill's becoming law that never got signed. It wasn't about the bill.
So let's get one step further past, Hogan's potential veto or what's happening there, but the drug industry itself is a $500 billion industry in the United States. Mm-hmm. And what I'm interested in maybe learning from you guys or our public is why our state has to take that on instead of the federal government. So are we one of the first states maybe, taking a stand on this?
We are the first state, as I understand it.
Right.
And why does the state take it on? I think you take it on where it needs to be taken on. And just like cases that start in district courts and work their way through circuit courts and up to potentially even the Supreme Court,
gain momentum.
I think there is a pathway. I think you can enter the legislative process at many different places. It wouldn't make sense for the city of Hagerstown to do this. It wouldn't make sense for Washington County or Frederick County or another county, but it certainly makes sense at the state level. The state level, from a health insurance perspective, we talk about one of the benefits of Obamacare was the fact that it eliminated the problem with pre-existing conditions. Well, guess what? In Maryland, pre-existing conditions had to be covered for a long time, and there were many state legislators that fought for that for many years. So I don't necessarily think it's where you enter the process. I think it makes sense at the state level, but we are breaking new ground.
I'm concerned. I'm very concerned about this, and I don't know the full details on this bill, unfortunately, but I have always been of the mindset that any attempt by government to control prices of anything,
well, look how it worked with the gas deal
idea
in the 70s.
Right.
You don't remember that?
Well, I don't, but I do understand price
Yeah.
gouging and
Well,
what's happening in the medical industry, and you can take,
Sure.
the CEO of, and I can't remember the name of the medication, but whatever it was to treat HIV, I believe, it was $11 a pill, and they ended up multiplying it by 50 times.
So
and
here's the
overnight.
problem with that though.
But-
Is that $11 a pill? That's just their cost for that pill.
Right.
All right. So now you have so many government regulations that companies have to deal with, as well as you have failed drugs that companies have, they put the research into, they put significant amounts of money into, but that drug then ultimately fails
Right.
because it won't meet FDA guidelines.
And
so that $11 a pill is very misleading because the company has to recoup a lot of costs
Right.
from research and development.
The second pill cost $11.
Right.
The first pill cost $110 million.
Exactly.
That's the issue, and that's where they're trying to recoup the cost.
Okay.
However, having said that, are they going to pad their bottom line?
That
Yeah, they are.
That's
Why?
what I'm thinking.
Because that's
They're a
what
business.
capitalists do.
For R&D and
they
future
have
investment, yeah.
stockholders. We at some level there is a percentage of our population that treats profit as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
But I think the controversial thing about it is how it can happen just overnight. It doesn't necessarily, it take years and years and years. They can lay it down and just say the next
Right.
day it's this price.
So and really the solution to that is a reform of the drug industry and the regulations of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the only reason that they can set those prices to whatever they want is because they don't have any competition.
Sure.
If
Okay.
you give them competition, they can't price gouge because their competition's going to set their prices lower than
Well, but
the rest.
again, let's go back to the research piece. So you spend $110 million and develop a cure for whatever, and then but you can't have any control over that, and I can be your competition. So I just take your thing, change a couple of things, and now I
Right.
put it back out on the market. Is that fair to her?
Right.
No. So I think there's some regulation necessary here. And again, this is a topic that frankly is over my intellectual pay grade. But what I can tell you is that I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think these corporations are definitely padding their bottom line, and they should, because guess what? That's what they do. But at the other end, this is a big issue because this is about people's lives, and this is, medical bills throw people into bankruptcy all the time.
You're absolutely right.
But it's also, by the way, about the lawsuits. If you happen to be home during a day and have the TV show or the TV on,
yeah.
how many did you take ABC drug? You could be entitled to millions of dollars.
And there's a reason why you're home during the day watching those shows.
Yeah. Maybe.
Well, Jim, I'm going to give you the last word on that. Coming up, more progress in the process to replace ousted board member Karen Harshman. We're back in 3 minutes with that report.